what do you think about dying? Like, what are your thoughts of that?
I think that dying really is the ultimate gift, because that's what we're all here on earth for, is to work and work toward our spiritual life. I mean, we're just, a human body here on earth working toward our spiritual life. It's to go back to where we came from. And it doesn't scare me. I'm ready anytime. And it's helped me over the years. Like
in your core, it literally does not scare you.
No.
Nothing about it.
No. I can remember about 25 years ago or so that I actually woke up in the middle of the night, and I swear I was having kind of like some palpitations. And I thought I was going to die that night. And I got really nervous, and then I just settled myself down and said, if it's my time, it's my time.
Empathy's my jam, empathy's my jam, empathy's my jam, 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 jam.
I'm Chad.
And I'm Tiffany. And this is Empathy Jam.
Are you ready?
Whenever you are.
You want to put the headphones on so it's official?
Oh, okay.
All right, so we had a couple unperceived logistical things that you had to take care of.
Right. And
the breathing exercise that we did was by this guy called Wim Hof.
Okay.
He's gained a lot of popularity in the last 10 years. And yeah, I heard about him for a while, but then I started doing that breathing exercise, and it's made a difference for me. I keep doing it every day, which is odd for me because I usually start and stop. We were going to talk about that,
right?
That with you about meditation, different or journaling. Last night you said that, oh, I got journals galore. So I just wanted to, introduce people to you as obviously my grandma, but put at least a little bit of a container of, I don't really know how people's relationship are with their grandparents, but I feel like ours is close and you're always very open. I don't feel like I gotta hide anything from you.
Right.
Yeah. So.
And I want that to be with all of my grandkids, all my kids.
Yeah, I think everyone feels that to a degree. I mean, I can only speak for myself, but obviously I know Wes. We're pretty close, so.
Right.
But yeah, so I was thinking about this when we had a conversation about a week or two ago when we were talking about me coming, is where did, that seems unique to me that you are so open. You've always been open and trying to look for something different. Where did that come from? Why are you like that?
I don't know, because sometimes I ask myself that. There are things that I know that I don't know how I knew them. When I was raising the kids, or when I first got into more spirituality instead of just religion, things that I just felt like I knew, and I don't know where it came from.
It's just you just chalk it up to intuition or some spiritual type of thing, or?
Yes, it's very, very spiritual, I think. But I've always sought answers. And if I couldn't find the answers myself, then I was always open to seek counseling or ask somebody else that might know the answer. Because if something is really important to me, then I need to get to the bottom of it. If I'm having a problem, if I'm feeling stressed out and everything, then and I can't take care of it by myself, then I need to seek somebody else that I can discuss it with and maybe get some answers. And then I know that all the answers are within myself. So sometimes it's just talking it out, and you come up with your own answers just by saying it out loud, or, getting somebody else's viewpoints on different things.
But you can't remember where that, started from in you,
it's not something I've ever been able to put my finger on. It's just some things I just know. And I think that's a spiritual thing.
Mm-hmm.
But,
earlier this morning when we were just having breakfast and stuff, I'm like, is there anything that you kind of have a boundary where you don't want to get into? And obviously we could take out anything that you do or not want. But I know a lot about your life and your history of growing up, the beginning when you're young, having kids, lots of, let's just call it pain and suffering at times. Did you have that thing we're talking about even before all that, or was it born from hard stuff happening? Or can you remember even as a little girl?
Well, when I was younger, I was very shy, never spoke up. I was always the listener, and listen to other people talk. And it took me a lot of years to be able to bring my own thoughts to the surface and, share them with somebody. And I always felt like I, held so much stress and everything in. But it's like once I opened the doors and went to counseling or something, and if I seek help from somebody, I'm completely truthful of what's going on. Because to get to the bottom of anything, if you don't have the truth come out, how would anybody be able to help you if they don't know all of the details?
Right. So that's already some kind of code you have with yourself that seems obvious to you, that you got to be honest.
Honest.
About what's going on.
Always.
Honest with yourself, and if somebody else is involved in helping or something.
Right. And I have this thing, because I am so honest about things. If somebody has known me for 10 years and they question me on anything, I get real upset, because I always think if they really know me and who I am, they would not question what I say. Not that I'm always right or anything, but it's my opinion, and this is who I am. Mm-hmm. So I don't feel like I have any secrets. There might be things I don't want to talk about, that are private, but I really don't have any secrets of who I am and what I think or anything else. Mm-hmm. But I find that all of those years when I kept my mouth shut and listened, that I've got way more opinions now than I ever thought I would have. So I have opinions on everything.
So some type of, you're basically saying some kind of calibration from being so shy and quiet, or we can get all into the whole giver part of you.
Right.
That last night you were kind of venting about, of being the one willing to listen and schedule your time around everyone else. Yeah.
Well, because I know I have a lot of opinions, but I'm always willing to look at the other person and think they have opinions too. And deep down, I don't think there's a right or a wrong hardly to most things. I just think you have your opinion and I have my opinion. So I never want to say one person's right or wrong. It's just that we're thinking in a different realm, or whatever you want to call it, and we have two different opinions of things. So it doesn't ever have to come down at you're right and I'm wrong, or the vice versa. Mm-hmm. It's just that we accept each other for who we are. Yeah. And I try to allow that to happen. I want you to be exactly who you are when you're around me, and I'm going to accept that. Even if I see things that I really don't like that you might do, that's only my opinion. and we never know what's going on in the other person's mind, what their real true thoughts are. So I like to have relationships with people that I feel they are genuine, that they will take me for who I am, and I will accept them. And those are the people that I get the closest to, and that we can have an open-hearted conversation. And I always love all my grandkids. I always have these one-on-one times with them. That's always been important to me, because when I have, and it's happened before where I have 2 or 3 of the grandkids at a time, and what they do is they end up having fun or playtime or whatever, and it's excluded me because they're just having fun and they're just kids. But I want that kiddie part to come out and to be with me. I want to have fun, with the kids. So I tend to find time to have one-on-one time with all of my grandkids at some period of time or another. I do that. And even my kids, I always, your mom and I went on a 9-day trip together, and we could get on each other's nerves a little bit even, but we were there just together, to be together. And I go down to Sandy's and stay for 2 weeks at a time. And the boys I, have dinner with or have lunch with, and we have one-on-one time. So that's really important to me, that I keep that one-on-one relationship. And then when we're all together, we're just all having fun.
Right.
So,
how many grandkids are there?
Well, there's 13 grandchildren, 25 great-grandkids, with one getting ready to be here, and 3 great-great-grandkids.
Holy crap.
Yeah, it's 42 altogether.
You got a full-time job sending us all birthday cards.
Right.
How you do that?
Well, I have a system, and I keep at it.
You have a system.
I always know whose birthday it is, and it's...
Where did that come? Like, is it just important for you to make sure you let that person know you're thinking about them on the day they were born? And
it's just something I've always done. I've always sent birthday cards out. I probably send out 70 or 80 birthday cards every year. I know all of my friends' birthdays. I know all of my nieces and nephews' birthdays, and just about everybody's. And so I send out cards, 4 or 5 cards every month. And it's just something I like to do. And sympathy cards, or if somebody's sick, I've always, I still believe in actually sending a physical card instead of just saying on Facebook, happy birthday or happy anniversary or happy this, that, or hope you're feeling better. I like to personalize it and put it in a card and send it. So that when that person, they can look at it anytime and feel better. So,
yeah. So, do you keep track of the people that make sure they say thank you for the card?
Not anymore. No. Some of the times I can tell, it's like, to me, parents should teach their children, to say thank you and please, and to be respectful. And so once in a while, I get a little Facebook or a text or something saying thank you for the card, Grandma, or something like that, and that makes me really feel good. And I don't even know if you remember, but when I first got my iPhone, I set up this thing, and once a month I would send all of my grandkids a little note, and it's like Grandma's thought for the month, just once a month. And I did that for quite a while, and then I don't know why I got out of that, but if I see something that means something to me, then I send it out to the grandkids,
Yeah.
And I always feel like I'm the adult. So no matter what, if the others, if some of my grandkids or my kids or something don't do something, or I'd like for them to do something different, I'm not going to wait for them. I'm not going to keep track. I'm not keeping score, who did what when it appeals to me, if I find a saying that really, resonates with me, then I send it out to, some of the kids. On Father's Day, I send all the, even my grandsons, Happy Father's Day. The women on Mother's Day, all the women in the family. So, those are just things that are important to me.
Yeah. And what I'm kind of knowing from our conversation last night, but like, what is this thing that you're talking about always being the adult? Or kind of there's this thing you were explaining about that a lot of people just, you feel sometimes like you're just, I don't know if it was taken for granted, but just that you're always strong, you're always on point, you're hitting all the marks. Can you say anything about that, or do you want to talk about that?
I guess I don't know how strongly other people, I feel like my role as a parent, and then it goes down to grandparent and great-grandparent, that my whole role in life is to be the example. That's how I raised my kids, example of being truthful and, whatever, considerate, whatever. My role is the adult, and I am kind of like the matriarch in my family because I'm the oldest, over everybody. And so it's my duty as a parent and that to teach good habits and all of the other things that you teach your kids. So I always feel like I am the adult here. If my kids don't agree with me on something, then I just say, okay, I'm the adult here. I will give in. I will always make it right. Because some people have a hard time saying I'm sorry. Mm-hmm. And
you don't have a hard time with that?
No.
Yeah.
But I have said I'm sorry before when I didn't even know what I did. So I've just recently said to somebody, I'm never going to say I'm sorry again if I don't even know what I did, and I don't think I did anything. But somebody could interpret something in a different way. Because that does happen. Perception is a really strong thing, and it can be good or it can be bad. And
right, it's like we all have our own, not only perspective and perception of something, but there's this whole just millions of layers of life and experiences that you might not. There's no way we can possibly track what uniquely one word or story might bring up for you. I noticed myself just being so humbled over and over. Like I had this one friend that kind of hired me to do a guitar part on his song, and long story short, like he said something, like this whole narrative happened, and it was very clear that like this narrative happened of this story I was building up. I was so upset. I was just like, I'm never doing anything for him again. And he ended up hitting me up again, and I was kind of cold about it, just because a whole nother aspect is like, when it's even, is it even worth to bring up to someone? You don't want to burden them with this, like, well, when you said this, it made me feel all this ways. And so a lot of times we hold it in, but kind of like what I was talking about last night, we hold in this narrative, and then it just sits there for our whole life. Like and it may be true, it may not be true. We may not know what that person is going through. In this specific example that I'm giving, this guy, I was a little cold on a text when he asked me to do something. I'm just like, nah, like I'm not interested. And he was like, did I do something to bother you? And I was burning with it so bad. I just was like, yeah, like I'm upset. And we ended up talking it out, and here his whole perspective, it just, even though he said these words, that it still just added to exactly the way it came off to me. But from his perspective, he just was like, I promise I did not mean that at all. Like there was a few key things that it was even hard for me being so upset to be like, dang, like I actually really believe him. Like I don't think he's like bullshitting me right now or whatever. I was just like, oh, and but I think about that experience that only happened 2 years ago, and you have to take that into so many different scenarios that you do gotta, when it seems worth it, you gotta check out the story and the narrative,
right,
to see if it matches, because most times it's just our human brains are just it's so complex of why somebody might feel a certain type of way about something or not, and it's hard to remember, like, or even remembering how you were kind of mentioning of when there's a problem or seeking help, and being honest and all that stuff. Like how do you constantly remind yourself to come back to that kind of what I would call humility and being willing to be open that other people have a different experience than you? Like how do you remind yourself when, I mean, do you get carried away in this like thing where you're just like, oh, just getting pissed about stuff, and like before you know it's just so carried away, and it's easy to forget that like that person has their own perspective too that I haven't even checked out. Like,
right.
Can you relate to any of that?
I've had that situation many times. Sometimes, a lot of times in the family, because my family's so large, of not even knowing that I've said something that maybe hurt somebody's feelings, or they take it the wrong, they take it completely out of context. And it's their perception, and it puts a little barrier, makes it, a little tension when you're around them. And if I can't say what's on my mind, I tend to kind of clam up and don't say anything. And then that person will get kind of like my cold shoulder or something. So after I've stewed enough, then I have to ask, and have a conversation about it so that we can clear the air. And that's happened quite a few times, even, with friends at times. And
do you feel like that willingness to ask and at least ask to work something out, is that a natural thing you just have, or do you think you developed that out of necessity, or do you think there's people that don't have that at all, that they just clam up and that's just what they do?
Well, what I see is that most people step away from any kind of conflict. I mean, they'll do anything to keep from having any conflict.
They'll do stuff that's even harder than... Right. Yeah.
And they won't ever speak up and say, if there's a problem, let's talk it out. Let's talk it out and see what's going on. Because usually it's one perception or the other, I have my stories just like everybody else has their stories. And if I get something built up in my mind, then I can get, a little ticked. And so if it's enough that if this person is really important to me, then I will find a way to have a conversation. And it's really hard for a lot of people to do that. But once I engage them, they will be forthright and, tell me what's on their mind. And so many times it's like, well, how could I keep saying or doing something that I never meant to hurt anybody, and they take it in a way that they're just really hurt by something I've said. And it's like everybody kind of knows that can speak up now and say what's on my mind and be honest about it. But maybe I have a little hard part of me that I'm not sure about. I never mean to do anything like that, but I guess all of us have that capacity. but I'm always willing to get together with that person and, smooth it over, because if I don't have a good relationship with you, there are people that I just avoid, I want positive-minded people, positive thinking. I don't like a lot of gossip. So those people I would just, not have in my friendship circle. Mm-hmm. That's happened, quite a few times that I, get in and I'm having a really good time, and then I find that, well, I'm not always comfortable if they're always talking about somebody, or if they have things that just doesn't sit well with me. Then I want to pick and choose and be around the people that I feel like I'm really comfortable with, I have something in common with. We have some viewpoints that, we're not going to be arguing, and people that are pleasant and that I have, that you feel good about. So I don't keep myself in a position anymore that I'm just going to be around somebody that irritates me all the time.
Mm-hmm. I heard
and
that.
not to say that I can't irritate other people, because I think I can, I probably do, because I'm so honest and I blurt things out. And
why do you think you're? Do you see that as a strength that you're honest, or you're just saying sometimes it gets a little over honest where it's maybe not needed?
Well, I want it to be a strength, because I want, when somebody's talking to me, they know that what I say, is the truth, and that I'm not going to lie about anything, and I'm not going to try to smooth it over like I didn't do something. Because if I do something and it really makes somebody angry or whatever, I'm sorry is very easy to say. It doesn't bother me at all to say I'm sorry that I said something. Mm-hmm. And sometimes 2 seconds after it's out of my mouth, I'm sorry I said it. Mm-hmm. And I can apologize, and apologies are kind of like a gift. If you apologize to somebody, and my gosh, it lets them know that you care enough about them to say you're sorry. Because people that never say they're sorry, I don't know. I don't think they have any compassion, inside of them. And I can really have too much compassion at different times.
It seems like anything can get a little out of balance.
Right.
Yeah. I wonder, I just thought of, yes, I can relate to you saying people that don't say sorry maybe don't have compassion. Or maybe it could be that saying of, hurt people. They're just, we were talking about someone last night of, if you feel this lack of love your whole life, and you never know how it shows up mm-hmm. in different ways or whatever. It's interesting to track how much people's history and what they've experienced before you kind of impacts whatever misunderstanding, whatever conflict or misunderstanding.
One of the things I just wanted to say, I have all my little sayings all over my house, and those really resonate with me, is that I wrote down that I read someplace in, it says, I'm sorry that you're hurting so much that you have to hurt me to make you feel better. Mm. Because I think that's what some people do. They're hurting so much that they lash out at other people to make themselves feel better. And that comes to mind, sometime in some situations. They just have to be hurting so much, and then they want to go out and hurt other people, so it'll make them feel better. Mm-hmm. And in the end, it never makes them feel better, I don't think.
So what's your role? What role do you take if you notice that's happening for somebody and they're completely unaware of it? That, like, just hypothetically, if that was happening for someone, what role would you take? Like, what do you think?
I guess I try to draw something out of them, because it has, happened to me before, and I try to get them in a conversation so that I can try to find out what's going on. Mm-hmm. And
like, almost try to at least bring out some of that vulnerability or hurt or something that you could understand, or something you could connect with.
Right.
Or, like, on the other side of things, like when you said just a little bit ago about certain people and certain vibes, you just decide that you're not going to put yourself in those scenarios. Like,
right.
I think there is that threshold, or we were talking last night, and I kind of get this from the 12-step program. Like, hey, if people aren't ready to hear what you got to say, then they're not ready until they're ready. Nobody gives a crap about sobriety unless they do. Unless they've had enough pain that's motivated them to wonder about it, and it's a tough thing, especially, I mean, I can relate being a parent, especially when you actually, factually, you actually do know better of this certain whatever it is we're talking about, and a better way for someone. It's so humbling to be like, I actually have the answers, and this person isn't ready to hear it. And for me, I think about, like, well, it's that's when the mysterious of life comes into play, to where either God or spirituality or whatever people believe in or not believe in, you just call it intuition, of, like, you can only do what you can do, whatever a person. It's kind of like doing this little dance of, like, well, how am I needed and how can I be useful? Because it can't be on our own brain strategy, because I've done enough research to figure out that doesn't work. You know what I mean?
Well, I can remember when I started really feeling like I was getting enlightenment or something. I was in my 50s when I started attending Unity, and it just made so much sense. I was learning so fast, and I couldn't wait from one week to the next to go back to classes, and because I was finding out so much about myself. Well, then I wanted to pass it on, to anybody I loved. I want to pass them on all this wonderful knowledge I was getting. And then, I would buy books that I was reading, and it meant so much to me because I, got so much out of it. And I would buy books for one of my kids or something like that, and then I didn't see any changes. And then all of a sudden, these light bulbs went off, and it's like, well, I'm in my 50s. Why should I think my 32-year-old kid is ready to hear this if I didn't hear it until I was in my 50s? And so that really showed me, because I can remember back sending my son, when he was in the Army, sent him a book, Jonathan Livingston Seagull, because I got so much out of that book, and he probably never read it. So I thought, God, I've wasted so much time over the years buying little pamphlets and sending books and tapes and things that they probably never even looked at or read. And until it finally dawned on me, they're not ready, just like I wasn't ready until maybe I was in my 50s. And so I don't press anything anymore. I don't pressure my kids to believe anything that I believe. My sons are really, they're respectful and will sit and listen to whatever I have to say. If I go 1 inch too far, my one son says, "Okay, Mom, I get the idea," and we change the subject. And that's fine, because I don't want to go too far. You know, if I think I have these brilliant ideas or how his life could be better, you know, then that's just a.
We all got ideas about each other.
Well,
don't
isn't
we?
that the truth? Every time I learned something, I thought, oh, so and so would be so much happier if they learned this.
Yeah.
And I think, well, why should I think that I know what's best for them? You know, I barely struggle knowing what's best for me sometimes. So,
Well, there's this aspect too, like we need to discover there are certain lessons you can learn from other people's lessons, but not as much as we think. It's
Right.
like you really just got to go through it. Your brain, spirit, whatever, it does have to go through and find whatever the truth is for you. And sometimes I joke about this thing like, well, if I say I was the most enlightened person and I knew the secret right now, and I knew the secret to life, all the keys to the most happiness, and I go to try to tell you, are you gonna listen? Same way as the role reversal. If somebody knows the answer, well, right away in my human brain, if somebody's like, what is that thing? If somebody's excited about something, there's a little skeptical part, like, well, is that really, you know? And I can even take it a step further, that even if I know what's best for me, I still don't do it. There's still some resistance, and I try to attract that of like, is that because I like to self-sabotage? Is that because I don't think I'm worthy? Is that because I don't like myself? I'm sure some of that is true at times. Like many times before with drugs and alcohol type stuff, it's like, well, I knew it for years that it just I wasn't able to like do what I want to be doing. And for, you know, my morals, certain morals that I had were getting like diminished and broken. And I was just doing stuff that I'm like, ugh, like I wouldn't want anybody to know that, or you know what I mean? Just kind of, I could see myself going downhill. And I definitely chalk it up to my mom talking about, you know, how alcohol and drugs affects her minds all these years. But when I was like 23, I'd be like, I don't even know what you're talking about. Like, I don't even get a hangover. I don't even feel bad the next day, you know? And it took, but there was a seed planted there. And that can give me the most relief sometimes when I want somebody to hear me, or I think I got something so important to say, or I'm inspired by some, whatever it is, some book, some song, some whatever, is that, and I really learned, I feel like I discovered this in the 12-step stuff, is that, oh my gosh, I had a brain fart for a second. That I can only, I had it right in my mind. Basically that I just have to have, planting seeds. That concept. Oh man, it took me so long to get back to that. But like, if I can just look at it as, well, I made an effort to plant a seed, and you never, and we've all had experience, you never know when 3 years down the road, 5 years down the road, somebody is like, hey, that one time you did this, and just when you're talking about being the matriarch of the family and leading by example, you just don't know how much that impact is gonna, it just happens. It just goes, and you can't control it. You can't strategize it. That's the thing, is we get inspired, then we want to strategize the impact. Just leading by example is the best, because it gives, in my opinion, but it gives people the chance to discover it on their own, in their own time. And all we got to do is keep being our true selves, and asking God, universe, intuition, whatever, what is mine to do each time. And it's tough, you know. It's tough for me being a musician, and there's a part of me that wants to be like recognized and like saying something special or whatever. But it's constantly a balance. Like at times, like I want to be the center of attention or something because I feel like I got something to offer. But at the same time, there's a real shy part of me that doesn't want to be and wants to just camouflage in. So in a way, it's like it's constantly dancing of like just as simple as like what's mine to do and when you got a text or something coming through. You're a busy girl. What's up with this morning? You're popular. Go ahead.
When you talked about planting the seeds, that's really up there because my girlfriend is the one that kind of introduced me to Unity, and she's very. She's not one to push anything. She would just say, "Oh, I found this new church, and it's really good." But she never really kind of invited me or anything. And over a period of months, she would just say, because she knew I was kind of seeking a church, and she would just drop, just say, "Oh, the talk today or the music was really good," or something like that. So, one Sunday I just said, "Well, I think maybe next Sunday I'll, go there." I mean, she had been going for 6 months and just dropping little hints here and there, but she never pushes anything, And all of a sudden, I mean, I go there and it's like, oh my gosh, after the first week, the second week, I think I signed up for a retreat. And it's like I was like a sponge. I was just, and now she's just said Sunday, because we were in a workshop together, and she just said she was the best seed I ever planted, because Marty is really a behind the scenes, she doesn't like attention brought to her at all. And so before the year was out,
she said you were the best seed she ever planted.
Right.
Okay.
Because in the next year, I could just tell the difference. I was changing, and just talking a little bit about it, but knowing. But my sister, she started coming to church there. My niece started coming to church there. My nephew that was in an AA program, and he was in a rehab center, started going down there because he was bored and he wanted something to do, and he ended up being the maintenance person, and he's been in AA for 20 some odd years, and it changed his life. Mm-hmm. And so I've had several other people that just talking and being comfortable with a place to worship on Sunday. So she still brings that up, that I was the best seed she ever planted. So that's what I like to do. At one time, when I was married, my husband used to say, "Why are you wasting your breath?" If I tell my kids something or try to bring up and have conversations about different things, you're just wasting your breath. And I always said, if I talk for an hour and they get one little bullet point, next year or 5 years from now, I didn't waste my time. Mm-hmm. If anything that I say or do for their welfare or their good, and if they don't pick it up for a while, they will get it in their own time. So I never feel like I'm wasting my time with anybody. I'm not.
This thing keeps vibrating. I hear you, though. I hear you on that. Planting the seeds. That's one thing I want to... Like, two of my mantras here lately for my own self is like story tell. Because I know when people feel... When they find themselves in other people's story... Healing can happen in a subtle way, or not even on a grand scale of healing. At the very least, it's like we were talking on the phone last week, like at the very least you can just hear something and it spark your interest, and it might shoot, it just might keep you busy for the next month learning about that one thing. So,
Right.
Can you talk about like where you came from as like the Catholic Church growing up in that, and then the transition into what, or whatever you want to talk about when it comes to spirituality? Like I know I wrote down here on the paper, like you said, I don't know how people live without some kind of spiritual practice or God or...
Right. Well, I grew up in the Catholic Church, went to grade school 8 years, and went to church 6 days a week. So that was very ingrained in me, attending church of some kind. And then in high school, I went to an all-Catholic girls' high school. And I can't remember how old I was that somebody questioned and said to me, the God that I know is forgiving, does not punish. All the things that I grew up in the Catholic Church thinking that God was going to punish me, I was really a good little girl because I was always scared that God was going to get me. It was awful to, have that fear. Mm-hmm. And that was something, fear of the Lord. I don't ever want to think, and I would never teach my kids to fear God for any reason. I don't care what they do, He would forgive them. And having fun, there's, and I'm not going to put down anybody else's religion, but when it comes to fun, I've got a picture of the laughing Jesus, in the other room. And God wants us, all He wants from us is He wants us to be happy. He wants us to have the kingdom. He wants everything good for us. So how can I ever put a negative slant on my feelings for Him? And so for a good while, I resented the Catholic Church. After I started going to Unity, I resented it because I felt I had all this guilt, and I was taught to fear God and to think so many things were wrong and a sin, and I was going to go to hell for... And I think the mortal sins back then where you could go to hell over them. Then they changed the rules, and you didn't have to go to church on Sunday, and you could eat meat on Friday. And it's like, well, what about all those people that went to hell because they did those things? So I had all of these questions, springing up in my mind. Mm-hmm. So looking at all the aspects of not religion, but of being a spiritual person is completely different, Religion is very, dogma. Most churches, you believe this way. And it's like
a one way.
Yeah, so it's so funny because if there's 20 denominations and everybody says the only way you're going to get to heaven is to believe this way, and then the next you could go to a different church and it was this way. Mm-hmm. And growing up, we weren't allowed to go to a wedding in a different church. We couldn't go if somebody died and go to a funeral in a different church.
Wow.
That was just something that we weren't supposed to do because that was a sin for us to go to another church. And now, everybody, that's why I think a lot of people left their churches because it was too stringent. It's like they didn't teach you to think for yourself. They wanted to tell you what to think when it came to religion. And I think everybody, and I tell people when they say, well, I don't go to church because of this or that, or somebody said, I don't go to church because my wife won't go with me or something. And I said, my relationship with God is very personal, and it doesn't depend on whether you're going to go with me today or not. I get up on, Sunday, that when I want to go to church, I go. If I stay at home that day, I never feel guilty about it anymore, because I carry that with me. I missed the Catholic Church because I missed communion, because I would go to communion, and that's where you take God into your to your body or to your mind or whatever. And
you miss that just tradition and the way that
I missed that for a good while. And then at Unity, then I learned that we carry God inside of us at all times. So if I carry God with me all the time, why do I need to take that wafer to put him there, to bring him to me? And I always, prayed at the God up there. And God is not up there. He's everywhere, and he's inside of me, all times. And you're never alone. You're never without him. So that, that just takes so much stress and guilt off your shoulders just to know that. So, I believe I used to go to a class all the time that believed in angels. And I believe I have, guardian angels with me. And so I believe I have a special angel that I can talk to that gives me comfort.
She got a name?
Grandmother.
Oh, yeah, you told me this.
Yeah.
Yeah, we talked on this angel thing
right
a few times over the years. Yeah.
It's come and hit me in the face, I was up with your mom, and we were getting ready to go on our trip to Turkey, and I was having a problem with my tablet that I bought so I could take pictures of everything, and I was having trouble with it, and it's the day we were leaving, like 4 o'clock that afternoon. That morning, I'm out trying to get somebody to look at my tablet for me. And just to make a long story short, I'm walking across the parking lot to get in my car, and I'm praying, God, or Grandmother, please help me get my tablet fixed so that I can go on this trip and take my pictures and do everything that I want to do. And I'm just almost, just begging her to help me. I get to my car, I open my car door, and there is a white feather laying in my car seat. And I have it in a plastic bag. And it's like, oh my God. So it's like this stress just started melting off of me, and I knew that I would get it fixed. And in the next hour, I took different turns to get to where I thought I was going because I didn't have my GPS then. I went down the wrong...
How did you ever survive?
I don't know. So I went down the wrong alleyway, and I come across, and here is a internet place that has technology,
like tech people that work,
right?
Yeah,
and it just happened to be there, and I went in and told him what I needed, and at first he said he didn't think he could do it, and he says, well, wait just a minute and I'll have time, and he looked at it, and I swear when I left there, everything was taken care of. So I've just seen some different things happen, in my life and in other people's lives that
is kind of like unexplainable. And
oh yeah. So I feel safe. When I have any problems that are stressing me out, Unity has the daily word. The daily word, I read that every day, and then they have where you can call into the prayer line at Unity Village. 24 hours a day. It's always somebody there. And I call them for everything. Mm-hmm. And my kids and grandkids, they'd call me if there was something they really needed, and they'd say, hey, Grandma, would you call Silent Unity, or would you say some prayers for this or that? And I always was calling Silent Unity for everybody. And now I've been passing on the phone number and letting them do it. Didn't you call them once?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so I just wanted to explain for people that just be listening on audio that you keep bringing up Unity, and they have this place in Missouri that's kind of like the Mecca for Unity Village, which actually I have a lot of history with Unity because I grew up in there, and then I ended up playing for all their youth retreats all over the country, and I've been to Unity Village a few times. I've stayed there a whole week. And they would take you up into the Silent Unity area and show you. But there's somebody there praying 24/7, and you can call. And you've been suggesting, I've even been there, and you've been suggesting this to me for years. And the one time we talked, and you said, it's so hard to take other people's suggestion. I don't know what it is. It takes a certain amount of humility, just like, okay, I'll take your suggestion. And I told you, like, okay, I'm gonna call, and I did. And during that time, that was before Tiff quit her job, and then Savannah was also having a really hard time. And I just called him. I was like, I was just nervous that, it's just like doing anything new. I'm just like, I don't know how this is going to go. I don't want them keeping me on the phone praying for an hour or something. But I called, and basically the softest voice ever answered the phone. And I just said, I want to just have some prayers for my sister and wife. I didn't even go into it, Mm-hmm. And she said a little, real short and sweet, a little thing, but I'll be honest, it teared me up. Something about the experience teared me up, and whatever that is. I like to also think about people that are not relating to spirituality or religion or in a 12-step. It's like you just can make up this own relationship with higher power. This one dude I knew, he said his higher power was a rock, because he had such a struggle with the bad experiences he'd had with like super hardcore churches growing up, that he said the only thing he could get himself to latch onto was like, well, here's this rock, and I know I didn't make this rock. Something bigger than me made this rock, and this is my higher power. He would say that over and over. And what it was is it really, people that were new, especially atheists or people that just like, no, I don't believe in nothing, it gave them, they could relate to that enough to where, you don't got to prove to everybody whatever it is. You just gotta, to me, there's something about just the willingness to follow a path and try to seek relief, like that relief you're talking about, that weight of your shoulders, and something where you can find some peace in, is like that's the need that it's meeting.
Well, when I believe it so much that, that prayer does help. When I call Silent Unity on any problem, I can hang up the phone, I can go on with my day, and that problem never enters in my mind again, because I have handed it over to God, and I know that they're going to take care of it.
You took action. You're taking action on it of some sort.
So once I hand that problem, it's not my problem anymore. I don't have to solve it. I don't have to make it better. I have handed it over to somebody else, and I trust that that's going to be taken care of. And it might not be the answer that I want, but there's a resolution. It softens it. It's always better by the next day. It's not like it's got to zap
it out of whatever, some kind of magic, but it's like it takes the edge off. There's some action, some kind of thing you've developed, exercise.
And it always says God may not answer exactly the prayer the way you want it, but if you ask for something and say this or better, because God knows better, because if we tell him as our plans on something, that's a big joke.
Or better.
So if we always just put it over and know that he does have the answer, that we don't, it's just a relief, and I need that relief, constantly. So after many years of calling Silent Unity for everybody else, I think in the past year or so, I've had 4 or 5 people that I actually can talk them into going ahead at first time. And it's somebody's on the end of the phone. They don't see you. They don't know you. They never going to speak to you.
And it's short and sweet, baby.
Right. And they have I don't know how they do it because they are trained, but they have exactly the words you needed to hear that day. It just, and it gives me peace of mind. So,
what do you think about, this is going to sound like real, like, ooh, you said that. What do you think about dying? Like, what are your thoughts of that?
I think that dying really is the ultimate gift, because that's what we're all here on earth for, is to work and work toward our spiritual life. I mean, we're just, a human body here on earth working toward our spiritual life. It's to go back to where we came from. And it doesn't scare me. I'm ready anytime. And it's helped me over the years. Like
in your core, it literally does not scare you.
No.
Nothing about it.
No. I can remember about 25 years ago or so that I actually woke up in the middle of the night, and I swear I was having kind of like some palpitations. And I thought I was going to die that night. And I got really nervous, and then I just settled myself down and said, if it's my time, it's my time. And ever since then, it's just calmed me down. And it's helped me to look at when I lose somebody close to me, and I've lost, quite a few people in the past several years, and that I can always look at the fact that they are so much better off than I am. They're out of pain. If people are suffering in any kind of pain, they're out of pain. They're where all of us want to end up. Whether there's a heaven, whether it's in our mind or whatever, they have they've gotten out of their bodies and now their spirits.
You said something to me this morning, and you mentioned your sisters, which are a great aunt, right? Great aunt Laverne and Charlene. This morning, you read the Daily Word to me.
Right.
And then I got you to do my Wim Hof breathing, which is super sweet. But you had said this one thing, like, I think of if they would want to come back.
Right. If I could just say, hey, do you want to come back? They would both say, no. We are where we're meant to be.
So not even just the physical pain or health type of thing, but like the mental strain of just being alive and navigating this life of all the ups and downs and all arounds that we're touching on. I
think they're the lucky ones. They're the lucky ones to have gone before me, and I can feel that, I'm sad and I really miss them so much, but I miss them but I'm happy for them. I'm happy for them. And that's how I feel about everybody. And if somebody gets to the end of their life, it's like people cry at people's bedsides and, it's hang on, don't go. But when they are saying that, they're thinking of themselves and the grief they're going to go through. They're not so much thinking about that person. So I can sit with a person and talk about death to them. My neighbor across the street had pancreatic cancer, and I would go sit with her, and she just talked freely about it. I mean, she didn't take any treatment or anything, and she just knew her life was, on a daily basis just about. And right up until the end, we could talk about it. And it's like she had done everything she wanted to do. Her life is in order, and she is just ready whenever. And she completely remodeled and did stuff in her house so her husband would have everything. She made it so everything was going to be good for him when she was gone. And she was just a delight to be around, and that she did not. She suffered in some pain, but she didn't suffer mentally about it at all. Just every day we could have a conversation, and we'd tease her. We'd cut up about it. We'd talk about it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're not going to be here much longer. You might as well have all the fun now you can.
Right.
And so it shouldn't be that little afraid to touch on the subject with somebody. I think.
Yeah, like right when I asked you that, I'm actually not afraid to touch on that with you at all. But I had this certain pause in me, like, oh, certain people were like, damn, you just asked your grandma about dying, like, right. And I'm just like, and I'm trying to navigate that my own self, that, you know, again, I'm here saying what I'm supposed to say or whatever.
Right.
And if I say something wrong, just like you said, I can say sorry.
Right. And, well, you know, as I told you, Saturday I'm flying down to Dallas because my brother is 92 years old, and we're the last 2 siblings out of 6 kids. And I have always known in my mind that I'm going to be the last one here by myself. And that really makes me sad, you know. But he's been really ill the past couple of months. And I've changed my reservation twice, so this is the 3rd time I've moved it up. So I was going in October, then I moved it up for 2 weeks, and I was going to mid-September, and now I'm leaving Saturday on the 3rd and going down for a week to be with him, because it scares me to think I won't see him again.
Mm-hmm.
And I just saw him in February.
Yeah.
But
it's partially why I came during the middle of this week, is because I knew
Right.
you were going out of town too.
Right. So I want to, you know, spend that time, and I'm just spending a week, but then I'm taking enough medication that if something happened, I can stay a 2nd week, you know, to be with him, because I don't want to pass up that opportunity. Mm-hmm. Because he'll be my last, you know, sibling, because parents and aunts and uncles and everybody is going. And I have a cousin that she has had a stroke, and she's really, now they found that she has cancer, so she's going to probably be gone pretty soon. And so that's, I can accept those things a lot better. When I get down there, I'm sure my brother, he'll want to talk about it. Mm-hmm. You know, well, what if I don't last, or what if this, or what if that? And he, for the first time, he hasn't probably been to church for 50 years, I don't know. But for the first time, he said, my daughter acts like I never pray or anything. He said, I believe and I pray. He said, but I don't need her stuffing it down my throat. That's how he puts it. And I said, okay, but that's the first time he's said I can't even remember him ever talking about it, even that he, you know, thinks about it and he believes and he's, you know, praying. But that's good to know. It makes me feel better that, you know. But I'll be very sad, but 92 years old, he's lived a great long life, you know, and been healthy most of those years. So
I wanted to circle back to this part that you said about your friend, and I thought it was so eye-opening when you said, oh, most people get so sad beside somebody's bedside or whatever, because it's almost like a selfish thing. They're putting themselves in that position of how sad it might be. And what you're saying is that you don't do that. You just make it more about the person, be right with them, and it's not taboo to talk about. I mean, you're getting a lot of experience. Mm-hmm. I don't mean to, you know, we were just talking last night, like, you're 84 and you're like saying you're just experiencing a lot of death at this time of friends and family. And do you think you get better at it with more experience or something?
No, I just I want to be
you kind of have like a way that you look at I mean, my mom, I know my mom, like, it's not very taboo either, because she's really open about it, and I think that trickles down from you being open about it and stuff like that.
I think when people think they're near death, I think they have a need to talk about it and talk about their feelings and what they want and things like that. And I think that their loved ones, they're trying to give themselves false hope. And they'll say, oh, you're going to get better, and, tomorrow will be a better day. And they want to build that up. And I think that person that is ill sometimes feels like they are the ones
taking care of everybody else.
So everybody else doesn't have those really sad feelings when they're around them or something. Mm-hmm. And they don't talk about it. And it's like, what is the book, Tuesdays with Maury? Did you read that book or the movie? Yeah, he was dying. And so he had, I think it was Tuesday mornings, people came to visit him so they could talk about their lives and, what they see and everything. And they lifted his spirit because he knew he was dying. And I feel that way. I want people to come and visit me while I'm alive, not be boo-hooing over me when I'm ready to leave. That feels, yeah. I don't want people boo-hooing at my bedside. I want them to come and give me a joke or make me feel good and tell me, and because it'll just be a day. It's a part of life, from the minute you are born, you're dying. It just takes other people long. Some people, it takes 2 days, a year. I think that, God, when we're born, God knows how long we're going to be here. And so...
Reminds me of a Joni Mitchell song, that cloud, that, I forget, it's off her Clouds album. I just heard it recently, and there's a line of something's gained and something's lost every day, or living every day, or something like that.
I mean, it's just part of life, I mean, we're all going to die. We can't get away from that. We're all going to die. And when, we don't know. And it is terrible on loved ones, especially if they're really close to somebody, and you hear these people that have these deep, deep love, in relationships and things. And it is sad. It's very sad when you lose somebody that you're around all the time. And in my family, I think my grandmother only lived until she was about 75, but my mom was 94. Her brother, my uncle, was 100. Now my brother is 92. Laverne died when she was 84, and that's how old I am now. And Charlene was 79, right? Well, I think she had just turned 80 when she passed away. And so we've got some longevity. And my heart doctor told me, no telling how long I'm going to live, that my heart is in such good condition. So that's scary to me. It's scary to me how many people that I may have to grieve over losing if I continue to, live a whole lot of more years, because my kids are getting older. My oldest son is going to turn 66 in November. And that's the only thing I worry, because I have this huge family, there's probably 60-something of us. And the longer I live, the more percentage that I'm going to lose somebody that I really love a lot. So that's the saddest part for me. And, we all know that parents are supposed to go before their kids, but that doesn't always happen. Because my friend that died of the pancreatic cancer had 2 sons that died. And she went through so much, grieving over that. But she talked about them all the time. And, I always try to talk about, some people just think it's taboo to talk about if you lose a loved one, and I think it's a tribute to them. I mean, we talk about Aunt Charlene all the time because, she was the brat of the family, and she was the outspoken one, and she loved her bourbon and water. And, we cut up and talk and always bring her, like she still could be alive. And I want to have those happy thoughts and be able to talk about them. It's not ever going to be taboo for me to, just bury it. Because people that bury their things like that, they cannot get past the grief. And that's one other thing is that I believe 100% is I do not live in the past. I think that's why I always feel like I'm 84 years old in a 60-year-old body. I mean, an 84-year-old body with a 60-year mind. And because I don't believe in living in the past. All of the sad things that happened, the hard life or anything like that, well, that happened to somebody else. That was my young Dolores. This is me, so I try to live in the present. I don't hold those grudges that, the bad things or anything that happened to me. I look back and think that's who that person was that might have hurt me in some way. That's who they were, and now I'm a completely different person. They had to live their life, how they did. They didn't know any other way. And so I have changed my life and am who I am today. And everything that happened to me in the past has made me the person I am today. No matter who you are, everything that happens in the past has made you the person you are today. And you can change your life every day. You can make your life better every single day you wake up. You just choose to be happy today. You choose to be, have a good day. Or you can sit back and moan and groan and see if it helps you.
Right.
So it doesn't usually help you. It makes you feel worse.
Yeah,
So,
I hear that. What's this thing that you always tell me about playing Mustang Sally?
Oh, it's just this song. I don't know I guess when it first come out, it just takes over inside my body. And I just want to get up and dance. So I've always said, Morgan at first started saying that she would play the song at my eulogy. I mean, I do not want people boo-hooing. I want them to think of the fun times we had together.
Yeah.
And because that's always been important, is that I have fun with my kids all the time. And if Mustang Sally starts playing, we all get up and dance. I don't care if it's played right now. I'm willing to get up and dance wherever I am. So then I thought, well, why not have Chad play that? And that's what I want you to do. It's not a new song anymore. It's an old song. But do you know it's so good to dance to? Every time I go out and there's a DJ, the last time I was getting ready to go up and ask them to play that, I was in New Orleans in March.
Your grandmother Angel done played it, huh?
I swear I'm getting ready to go up and ask them to play it, and I swear to God, they started playing it.
Oh, man.
Yeah, and then I went to a derby party that the senior citizens had, and all they played was 50s and 60s music. It's that era, of dancing and jitterbugging and all of that we did. And I was going to go up and say, because it was out of their realm to play, and I swear to God, before I could get up on the dance floor, they started playing Mustang Sally.
Wow.
Right in the middle of all of the 50s and 60s music.
Yeah.
And so anyway...
Well, I 100% can play Mustang Sally.
Good.
And I will. Let Morgan know. Don't be... that she's not to try to be putting that on Spotify.
Okay, that's fine with me. So I mean,
No,
I
know she won't mind. She's a big music fan. She came up and visited, not anytime recent, but it might have been 10 years actually. But she come up and went to some of my shows with me and hung out, and
I'll be darned.
yeah, we've done that before.
I can remember when you were even in high school, and you had your little band. I always just call them, said my grandson's in this little band. And I had never really been up there to hear you. And I remember the first time I went to a bar that you were playing in when I came up, and I've been thinking he's in this little band, and my God, they're not a little band. They're really good. Because I hadn't experienced it, and I thought that was so great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really, really enjoyed that.
It's fun. And then the one time we came down and played Ricky's party, I think.
Right.
Which, by the way, my Uncle Rick come by last night and we had dinner. And I appreciated that a lot. It was just cool just talking about, simple stuff, fishing. And my son, Caden, is all into fishing now. And just that kind of, those roots, it's just cool to me of like me and Wes have always been into fishing and kind of like, oh yeah, our uncles like love fishing, my dad did, and then just like it's natural being in my role of life to it's just fun to like pick your brain and just hear stories, even the painful, even the crappy ones. Many times it's fun to sit down and like a little kid and like listen to like what it was like for you or our family history. And it was partly why I wanted to see if you would come on this thing that me and Tiff are starting with, Empathy Jam, and you said, well, I don't know if I have anything anybody cares to hear or something like that. Do you still feel that way?
I feel that older people sometimes don't have the knowledge, because I think all of my kids are way smarter than I am, knowledge wise. I always think that, and out in the world and everything. But I think older people have a wisdom about them. And I've seen, where daycare centers takes kids to a senior center or a nursing home to be around. Oh, my gosh. And, it lights up the older people that, are not around any young people. And the little kids just get all that loving and, and attention and everything for them. I think it's the best thing that could ever happen. I think it'd be wonderful if that happened more. But I think I have wisdom. I mean, all these things that I've learned that I can pass on. And I'm not overbearing with it, because when I'm around my grandkids or my great-grandkids now, we mostly have fun, because I'll play cornhole with them. I've got 3 great-grandsons that just me and them, 3 of my great-grandsons would go play golf. Just like with you and Wes, I mean, I had years of that, that every time I came up, I took you all, just the 2 of you and me, to play golf.
Yeah.
And most grandparents that I know don't have that situation. And I was in my element when I'm around any of the kids. So those 3 boys now are all 18 and over. So I don't see them very, as often. But when I get around them, I feel carefree, and, I can get up there and do what a lot of the things I used to do with them. I mean, I'd get out and play ball or whatever they're doing, I want to do,
Hey, you can still spank some butt on cornhole, though. Yeah. Don't mess around with Grandma. You're not no slouch. You're not messing around.
Yeah, but
you're so competitive, too.
Right. Well, I've always been athletic my whole life. When I was even younger, I was always athletic. So I could close my eyes and still think I could get up there and play volleyball and and all kinds of sports and things, which I can't do anymore. Mm-hmm. But if I close my eyes, I can remember when I could do all those things. And I think I've always thought I was really good with teenagers because I used to work with the youth group at church, and I always just resonated with young people because I think I always just want to have fun with them. And they just crack me up how much they know or what they can do. And when I see kids, people fussing at kids for being a little bit loud or something, I say, they're just being kids. Kids just want to have fun. I mean, that's all that they think about is, if they don't have a lot of guilt trips on them all the time. Kids just want to have fun. They just want to be a kid.
Right.
And I think, parents need to allow them to be a kid and to always have fun with your kids. Your kids will never, ever forget all the fun times you had together. And there's a place for discipline and a way to discipline. And then just so the kids know you love them all the time. You always preface everything as how much you love them. It's, I love you so much, but I'm going to give you a spanking. Or, I'm going to ground you. Ricky told you last night he was grounded half of his life because he didn't, they didn't take school seriously.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when, you think you're, helping your kids because if you have to be, my motto is if you have to be there every day, why not get something out of it? I'm not a time waster. I'd say, do that all. I don't waste a lot of time.
Mm-hmm.
I want there to be a benefit, with whatever I'm doing. And so anyway, it's just, those are little tidbits of wisdom that I have.
Yeah. So what you're saying is you do have something to offer and give by having this conversation. I mean, for me, when you said, well, I don't know if I have anything really much to say, but if you think I do, I'm just like, well, hell yeah, you do. Like,
you get me started and you can't hardly shut me up.
Last night we were talking to midnight. You were like, oh my gosh, I've done talked. I'm like, no, I love it. Like, it's cool that we can do that. And it's not like getting together with your grandma and you're just like, well, we get some ice cream. Like, what do we talk about? Like, me and you, like, and I'm sure it's like that with everyone. Like, it just gets going.
Mm-hmm.
We gotta, so many things. I love talking about just life stuff with you of your experiences and the way you hold things. Like, it does rub off. It impacts people, So what, we're at least at probably 2 hours now. What do you hope to be remembered for?
I guess that I was taught, I did teach lessons in a kind and loving way. I practice what I preach. I hope that I do every day. I hope I don't come across of giving people advice and never take my own advice, Anything that I would suggest to anybody, I did it out of complete love to make their life better. If I give advice, and I try not to think that I'm really giving so much advice, is that I'm answering questions if I'm in a conversation with somebody, and that it's only my opinion. I preface that a lot of times. This is only my opinion. You don't have to believe anything I say.
Right. You own it for you.
Right. But this is my truth. And, but I don't expect anybody to just comply with whatever I say, because I said this before, we all have opinions and we all have our own thoughts. But my thoughts and my opinions that I give freely always come from my heart.
Well, I think that's true. I really appreciate spending time with you. I always do. And I love that I could just, if I think of you, I'll just call you. It's easy. Well, I don't call you every time, but I know I can. And I also know that, if you're busy, you'll let me know, or it's not hard to get off the phone with you. You know how some people, you're like, oh God, I don't even want to, I don't want to answer this call because I never can get off the phone with them. But I know with you, like if you just say what you mean,
Right.
It's like, oh, I'm busy right now, or I can let you know, oh, I'm pulling up to this whatever job. So it's cool. All right. So thank you. I love you.
I love you too.
Hello, Chad here. After reviewing this episode, I just wanted to include the Silent Unity phone number just in case somebody or maybe yourself is going through a hard time, and it definitely cannot hurt. I know what it's like to not take action and just kind of stay in the suffering of whatever is going on. This is just one option that you could use that my grandma highly approves of. And the phone number for Silent Unity is 816-969-2000. And again, I've tried this. It's short and sweet. It's just some kind of willingness and action, and I highly recommend it. Have a great day.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for listening. We have a request for you. Please make sure to follow us and leave a review on whatever platform you are listening on. If you want to send us a message, our email is hello@empathyjampodcast.com, and also find us on social media at Empathy Jam Podcast.
Empathy is my jam, 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 jam.